What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, Techademic. My name's Henry. I'm a full stack developer and I'm recording this from Cape Town in South Africa. So today's topic is comparing the Docker image build size using different base images. So this came out of a previous video that I did about a week ago. And a user asked, so he's curious to know about the Docker image optimization. For instance, getting the image size less than 400 megabytes on your video. Now, Alaton, I'm not going to talk about the load balancers in this video, but I will address the Docker image sizes. So the way I thought about going, or the way I went about this is obviously to go and do a bit of investigation myself, how we can get the most optimized and smallest images. And thank you to snick.io and specifically Lerontal for this very thorough article. And this video is loosely based on this article. So everything I'm doing here is essentially just proving or disproving what he did here. Spoiler, I don't disprove anything. Everything is true. So you're welcome to go and read up on this and see what you think. My outcome is a little bit different than what he has in his table at the bottom here for the comparison of Docker image sizes. The reason being I'm using a Next.js build for this, which in itself is quite large. So just as an example, I've got the project open here in the back, and it's the same one that I used in the previous video that I just got the comment from. And if you look in this directory, there's two directories here that actually contribute to the size. So one is the .next folder, which is where the build files go after they've been built, and then obviously the node modules directory, which is all the modules needed by the application just to run and build and so on. So if you look at these two, du sh, and we say node modules, that's 240 megs odd just in the node modules directory. And then if you do the same for the build directory, which is .next, that's 6.6 in this case. So that's 250 megabits or megabytes that form part of the image that gets built. There's ways around this, and spoiler, if you go towards the end of the video where I do the distro list build, there is a way that we can get the entire build, including the built Next.js application, down to about 160, 170 megabytes, which I think is very small. There might be challenges with that, but we'll get to that later. Okay, so what are we going to do? Firstly, like I said, this video is loosely based on this article, and then it came about based on the question that the person asked on the other video, and you're welcome to go and have a look at that video on YouTube. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends. Obviously, that's how we grow the channels on YouTube. So what are we going to do? So I've prepared a little, how can I say, repository specifically for this. I just continued on with the repo we use in this video, and I created a main branch called Docker compare, which is the one we're on here, and then a bunch of branches off that for each one of the specific images that we use to build. I'm not going to run each of them. They each work. I tried and tested all of them. Towards the end, when we do the distro list, I'll run it as well so we can see it going. Okay, so what is the changes that we have here? Let's just check out everything to what it was. Okay, so there are no changes on the branch at the moment. You can see there's Docker compare, and if I do a Docker, no, so I keep saying Docker. If I do a git ls git branch -l. These are all the branches that we have. So if you want to go to the repo afterwards, I'll have it down in the description. You can go and look at all of them and see what the Docker file looks like. So I'm just going to build each one of them, and then we can use the Docker desktop app to just see all the tagged images, and we can then compare sizes. So let's start from the top. First one, and I've created this branch already, like I said, is the node, not distro list, that's the last one we'll do, default. I've checked out that branch, and if you can see the preview for the README changed a little bit. So if you go to Docker, the Docker file, It's the 15th of November 2022, and as of today, the LTS version of Node is 18.12.1, which is why I picked that one. The rest of this all is exactly the same as a standard build for for Next.js to build a Docker file. So let's just say Docker build the current directory. We'll give it a tag, and I'm going to give it the tag of compare, and we say node default, same as the branch name. Right, so let's let that build. So getting the images from the base images from Docker is relatively quick because I've done this in prep for this video already. But it all adds up significantly towards the end. So, which is why I didn't turn off caching. There we go, it's the export and it's done. So if we check here, you can see node default tag 1.2 gigs. That's quite big. I don't want to distribute an image of that size. It's just unnecessary. Right, so let's do another one. And this time we say git checkout node default slim, which is the same image, but with the slim tag at the back. You are welcome to go and read up on hub.docker.com/node about what slim and alpine and everything means. I'll touch on it as we go through, but essentially it's a toned down version of the same package. So yes, let's build this one as well. Docker build compare node default slim. So the build is the part that takes the longest here. It should be more or less the same each time. That's this step here. Obviously depending on resource usage on your machine and things like that. Right, so I'm not going to look at the sizes now. We can come back to it a bit later. Well, actually, let's just check as we go. So there we've got less than half of the same size, 497 megabytes. This is already quite a decent decrease, and to be honest, I would be happy to ship that. It is also based on Debian, the node base image. I'm not exactly sure which version, but we are going into more well-known, how should I put it, version soon. Okay, so let's just switch back to the base branch so we can see all the other names. Git checkout docker compare, git branch -l. Actually, let's not do it this way. I actually have a README that can help me. Right, so we did the slim one, and now Node Buster. So this is also based on Debian. It's also an official image. It's based on Debian 10, which is probably going to expire or have no more support soon. Let me just confirm that from this article. So NodeJS image for slimmer, Node default, Docker Hub images, Bullseye and Buster. Here we go. Right. So the Buster image tag maps to Debian 10, which enters its end of life date in August 2022 through to 2024. So it's not a great choice, but the Bullseye image tag maps to Debian 11, and that's the current stable release, and it has an end of life of 2026. So definitely Bullseye if you want to go with either Buster or Bullseye. But let's just do it for just to be complete, to be thorough. So git checkout. And the branch name is Node Buster. And if you go to the Docker file, that's literally what I have there, Node Buster. You can also say a specific node version, like, I'm not sure what exactly the versions are, -Buster. I'm just going to go with the default build, which is by default the latest version of Node that's supported. So it's the same as saying Node latest Buster or something like that. Okay, so let's do a Docker build again. Compare Node Buster. It gets to the part where it builds relatively quickly. And again, this looks like it takes about 20 odd seconds every time. 21, 22. Okay, so if we switch over to Docker Desktop now, we can see NodeBuster 1.17 gigs. So NodeBuster and Node Default are very much in line because they are essentially the same thing. The underlying operating system might just be a different version. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure which one the default uses. I assume it's the same as the Bullseye, which we are going to do next. So again, git checkout node Bullseye, and then we can just do a build node Bullseye. I'm going to hit pause the moment I hit build here so that we don't have to wait the entire video. And yeah. Awesome. So that one actually finished a little bit faster. And if we go back to the sizes here, 1.21 gigs. So I'm getting the feeling that Node Bullseye and the default one is more or less the same thing. But there is also a slim version. So I'm not even going to check out the branch. I'm just going to type in slim there and we can run the same thing. Awesome, so that one finished in about 15 seconds. And if we head back here, you can see Node Bullseye Slim is about 500 megs. Again, it's very much in line with what we saw with the default package. Cool, so the next one, I'm just gonna git check out the file to its original state so I can switch branches. Git branch minus, well, let's check out Docker compare so that we can get the README back. And so we did the Bullseye Slim, and then there's also the LTS version of it. So let me check out this branch, copy, git check out that one. And if you go to the Docker file now, without the git lens, you can see LTS Bullseye Slim. So this will take the latest LTS version of Node.js and build it based on that, which at this point in time is 18.12.1. Okay, so if we do docker build -d compare node LTS Bullseye Slim, and we build that one, and it's done. So let's head over here and we say the LTS is 497.07. Does that look familiar to you? So that's just another way of saying, listen, the default Slim version is the LTS Bullseye Slim. It's aliases for each other. Right, next up, what do we have? I think Alpine is next in line. And I spoke about Alpine previously in the other video where I said Alpine is probably your smallest size that you can go for. But on reading up a bit more about this, Alpine is technically not an official package or an official image. It's not supported by the Node.js developers themselves. So we should not technically be using it if we're doing production builds. I mean, that's up to you. You can decide what you want to support and what not. But yes, anyway. So let's check out Node Alpine. There you can see Node Alpine is the package. So instead of being based on Debian like the other images that we've been working up to now, Alpine is based on Alpine Linux. It uses a different set of C libraries, so you might have some issues with if you're doing like hardcore stuff with Node where you're using operating system libraries and things like that. You might run into trouble, which is one of the reasons why Alpine is not supported by the Node.js devs, but rather something like the Debian-based distros like Bullseye or so on. So nevertheless, let's build it. We say docker build -t compare, and we give it a tag of Node Alpine. There we go. And it's finished. It took about 15 seconds as well. if we open this again, we can see Alpine is 431. So we already took about 60 megabytes off there. I mean, like I said, it's up to you to use that one. I used in the previous video without any issues, but I'm not doing any hardcore type stuff. Right, so now check out the Docker compare branch again. And if we go to README, the last one that's here is the distroless one. So what is a distroless image? Essentially, you're going to have to do a what we call a multi-stage build. So before I get there, the important thing about a distroless image is everything in the operating system part of this is stripped down to the bare minimum. There's no package managers. You don't have the basic tools like npm, yarn, and things like that available. The idea is that your app is ready to be used and you just fire it up in that image. So the reason we do multi-stage builds is because we need all of those things like npm or yarn or things like that. We need it available in order to build our app. We need to do an npm install, npm build. But with this multi-stage build, we say, right, we use a build image, build the packages and everything in there, or do an npm install, do an npm build, and then in this next stage of the Docker build, we take what we've built with that build image and move it over to this distroless image and just run it. So let's do it. I'm checking out the branch for distroless, which is NodeJS distroless. Right, so if we go to the Docker file here, you'll see I have a build image. So let's call this like step 1, build the image, and then step 2, copy it to the distroless image. So the first thing it's going to do is use one of the images that we used earlier, and you can use any one. It doesn't really matter at this stage, but Bullseye Slim was fine for me. Normal things in here, then you do an npm installed and an npm run build, which again is more or less similar to what we've done in our other Docker files. But then there's a next step here. Then we say, right, from another image, and this is from the Google Container Registry itself, there is a distroless build for node 18. In that, copy from build. Now this is a tag here, so we gave this first one a tag here of build. We say copy from the tag of build in the user source app directory, copy it over to the user source app directory in this image, make that the working directory, and then run this command. You can see here, I can't even say npm run start like you would normally do from the package.json because next, or npm isn't even part of the command line in this image. So let's run this, and I'm not going to pause the video. I want you to see how long this takes. So docker build dot -t compare and distroless. Let's just call it distroless for now. I'll get to the standalone now because that's where the magic happens. Right, it's doing the install now. So we're on line 7. It's essentially installing all the node modules that it needs to be able to do the build part of this workflow. And again, I'm running this specific one. Well, I don't think there is a cache because I cleared the cache for this one just a few moments ago before I started the video. Okay, so again, I'm specifically not breaking up this part of the video because I want you to see how long it takes. It's apart from the npm install, which is a little bit longer than it was previously, everything else should more or less be the same. There, the build part is down. Now it's saying it's copying from build user source app to user source app on this image. So we're working on the second image now already, and there it's done. Right. If we go over to the images now, there's distroless 448.68. Now this does not feel like it's a lot smaller like the article said it would be, and so on. The important thing to note here is what I said earlier about the size of some of these directories, like the next directory and the node modules directory. I mean, that contributes 250 megabytes on this, so that it means that more or less 200 megs of this distroless image is actually the image itself. The rest is the Next.js part of it. But like I said, there's some magic we could do, and this is probably what you're here for. What you can do is to build and this is specific to Next.js, sorry. You can actually build Next.js as a standalone app, which doesn't need a bunch of other dependencies to run and things like that. And to just show you what I mean, if you go to this next URL, there's a option to say output standalone, which we'll do just now. So we go to next config.js. We say output standalone and save it. And now, instead of, let me just show you what this does. So if you do an npm run build now, have a look at this Next.js directory. We build it. And there you can see a standalone directory appear. And if you open that, it actually has a server.js in there, which means it can be run just as a JavaScript file. The other ones are a bit more difficult to do exactly like that. So if we go back to the Docker file now, and we say, instead of just copying the user source app directory exactly like it is, copy the standalone, sorry, the .next standalone folder over to user source app, make that the running directory, and just fire up server.js, which is that file. Okay, so let's build this again. And we say standalone. You can see it's a lot quicker now in some cases. Sorry, I was mistaken there. The npm install part is probably still going to take about 30 seconds. I'm going to pause the video so well, no, I'm not going to pause it. Just let's let it run. You can skip ahead a few seconds if you feel like it. Almost done. There we go. So we've got a new image called distrolist standalone. If we go to Docker Desktop here, look at that size. This includes everything you need to run this application. And I'm going to prove that. We're going to run this. So that's the image tag. We say Docker run. And there, I actually tested it earlier, so it's completed for us. Docker run. It's listening on port 3000. If we go localhost 3000, there we go. That is being served from that 170 megabyte image. So, I mean, if that's what you came here for, sorry that you had to wait till the end. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe the video, and make requests for videos. Like you see, I like to learn as well, so I go find out, I make a video for you, and we just learn together. Stay safe. Cheers. Bye.